Welcome to Meekum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Tractor Auction, featuring the only classic tractor auction of its kind in the country. Today, some of the hardest to find tractors in the world will hit the auction block, so sit back and relax and enjoy Meekum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Tractor Auction.
Hello and welcome to Walworth, Wisconsin, to the 2013 Meekum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Tractor Auction. My name is Patrick Holmes, and along with Max Wilson, we are going to bring you hundreds of vintage tractors, antiques, and collectibles over the next 3 days here from Walworth, Wisconsin. So don't go anywhere. All the excitement begins right after this.
Do you have a classic tractor or collection you'd like featured on our weekly show? Well, time is running out for Meekum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Classic Tractor Auction, coming up November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa. It all happens at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, where we'll feature hundreds of the best vintage tractors anywhere. Just call or log on to Meekum.com to find out all the entry details. And we'll see you November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa.
Welcome back to Walworth, Wisconsin, the 4th annual Gone Farmin' Meekum's Vintage Tractor Auction. I'm Patrick Holmes, and Max Wilson's with me, and we had a couple of Ford 8Ns go through yesterday, but this one's unique in a couple of ways. A, the condition, and B, that it's pulling a trailer.
Yeah, and what we've got here is we've got a Ford 8N that was converted with the Funk 6-cylinder conversion for them, and this is all correct cast iron oil pan on it, professional restoration in 2012, so this restoration only a year old. All the aluminum parts that were added when the conversion was done have been polished.
Wow.
Flathead 6-cylinder in it, and it comes with a 1940s Montgomery Ward flare box wagon that looks like it's all been re-tinned with galvanized, and he's letting it sell as one unit. So that's actually a Montgomery Ward box and
no
running
kidding.
gear. So, and he painted it to match the tractor, so it's just kind of a nice showpiece.
And this thing is selling right now at a no reserve price of $6,500, and kind of a unique 8N. Again, there are several of them here over the last couple of days, but this one certainly stood out because of the polished aluminum and, of course, that Montgomery Ward's wagon.
And we've seen quite a few of the 6-cylinders come through here. We have not had one. They actually had a flathead 8 conversion, too. So.
And that one sold for $6,600. I think sounds like a pretty decent buy for somebody. Coming up next is a 1956 Ford. This is a 960 high crop. Again, another high clearance row crop tractor.
Yeah, and the high crops, you know, a few years ago, the John Deere high crops were just absolutely crazy on prices. So anyone, if it had high clearance, high crop or anything in it, I mean, they were jumping on board and buying them. And now we get to see a lot of these that are fairly rare tractors that are at least getting the attention they deserve and being restored and brought back to life.
Well, this one looks to have not only great rubber on it, but a fantastic restoration.
Yeah.
Right now, the no reserve price at $3,500.
Yeah, it's a nice looking tractor. The restoration was done correct on that. So, and of course, this is you look at those rear wheels. Now that was Ford's answer to a power adjust. The wheels are actually offset like an auger flighting, and it actually slides through rings on the clamps.
And then you tighten it up, and yeah. Well, $4,000. That one is going to have a new owner, and they're getting close as they roll out the arena. And it is sold for $4,000.
And, of course, the Fords are finally starting to get some of the attention they do deserve. They've kind of been tucked away by the wayside, and they're finally starting to catch on a little bit. So,
coming up next in the arena is a really unique, and as we talk about those the flares, this one's got the perforation so the driver can see through it, as you mentioned. A 55 John Deere 60 Orchard.
Yeah, and John Deere 60 Orchards, this is one of 85 built in 1955. Rear hydraulics and PTO. A lot of the orchard tractors did not come with PTO because it wasn't needed. A lot of the attachments they were going to pull were tillage equipment. There wasn't going to be a PTO unit needed on it. Comes with the operator's manual, service manual, and the parts book. Everything on this tractor is believed to be less than 40 hours on it since the complete engine rebuild, trans clutch and brake in great condition. All the orchard sheet metal is on it. Just a real straight and honest tractor. You even see on the headlights down there below the grill, it's got the correct orchard covers so that you didn't damage
You don't want to
the
bust
lenses.
out. You don't want to bust the lenses. Well, this thing, the reserve has been met now. It's at $16,000. So clearly a very, very valuable and rare tractor. Going to somebody's John Deere collection today as it drives out now at $17,000 as they try to wrap up bidding on that very unique John Deere 60 orchard tractor.
18, 19, 19.
And we got another bid now. It's at $18,000 as the auctioneer tried to wrap up, but I don't think the bidders are letting him stop.
As you see them, they're panning down that approaching line of tractors, and we've got some pretty good heavy hitters here coming up in the next probably 10 tractors. We've got some pretty high-end stuff, so it's going to be a real interesting next few minutes here. So.
Well, after this last John Deere, which of course we're looking at the Moline coming up next, but the John Deere Orchard is still being bid on at $20,000. So that thing has jumped up a couple thousand since it left the arena. So clearly speaks to the quality and the rarity of that vehicle. As you mentioned earlier, Max, 1 out of 85 built, and somebody's a new owner of that thing now for $20,000. So you mentioned, and I certainly have not seen this many orchard tractors in one setting, but this is a unique one because of the color and the style. This is a Minneapolis Moline Jetstar, again, another orchard tractor.
Yeah, and of course, orchard tractors are rare in their own right, but then they have, we've got a good representation of all the different makes of tractors.
Sure.
And, I mean, 3 years of being on the broadcast and helping Dan and everything, and a year of doing this for RFD, and I usually get to be hands-on with the tractors and see what's coming in, really study them. I think this is probably only the second Minneapolis Moline orchard tractor we've had come up, and the other one was the Prairie Gold color. Of course, this is the brown. I can't remember the actual term that they use for it, but and at this point, Minneapolis Moline was starting to make it look a little more futuristic. If you look at that front end, kind of that Buck Rogers look to it, and of course you look at the time frame of that tractor, it'd be right around that. So
got the full fenders, and that one just sold for $18,000. And wow, look what we have coming in here now. Another one of our featured tractors today. S67 is a 1927 Rumley oil pull, and this is an M2035, and seems to be running good.
Yeah, and of course that white smoke and everything, that's just the way these things were because it's running that exhaust through that cooler. And you see he's throttling her up a little bit. And I'll tell you what, the size of that exhaust opening, it's just a thump, thump, thump when they're running. Of course, 2-cylinder engine on these, and right in front of the operator there is all your rocker arms and everything are exposed. You're actually supposed to oil those as you're going across the field. Or
so he's got an oil can right there with him. Now this has got rubber tires on. Was that original equipment, or are those retrofitted for parade use?
That's retrofitted for parade use. This would have had grousers on it, pieces of angle iron that were on there for traction, and the front would have just a little steel raised piece for. And of course that's got the canopy and everything on it for them long days out there plowing. And
boy, that's a workhorse back in the day. A 1927 is at $35,000. No indication whether or not the reserve. It has just been met, I've been told, and just popped on the screen. So that thing is selling for $35,000. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We have got dozens and dozens of vintage tractors coming up right after this.
Do you have a classic tractor or collection you'd like featured on our weekly show? Well, time is running out for Mecum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Classic Tractor Auction, coming up November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa. It all happens at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, where we'll feature hundreds of the best vintage tractors anywhere. Just call or log on to Mecum.com to find out all the entry details. And we'll see you November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa.
Here's one of the bells of the balls coming up right here. Bell of the ball right here. So
this is a 1958 John Deere 620H. Another high crop. Again, great collection of high crops here. But I'm told that this is one of only 22 built.
Yeah, and 10 of them were built in 57, 12 of them in 58. So this is a black dash. This has the upgraded engine and everything, and shipped new to Ottawa, Illinois, which is not too far down the road here from where we're at in Walworth. This is actually a verified 620 high crop, one of 22 production built. Beautiful restoration on this tractor. I was walking around and looking at this one, and I'm just in awe of it because it is that nice. A lot of these high crops went down in the southern areas, down around the Gulf, and that salt air from the ocean and that.
Eat them up.
Yeah, just rotted out.
Well, this one, it looks like at $50,000, $60,000, $61,000. So for the year in 1958, this was just one of 12. It's hard to imagine of those 12 tractors that there's another example of one in this kind of condition. The reserve, I'm just told, has been met. So this thing has got a new owner right now at $61,000 as one of our drivers starts rolling it outside of the arena.
Yeah, and going around to some of the tractor shows that I go to, I actually had someone approach me and want to know where this tractor came from and what was going on with it. And, of course, doing this end of it, I'm not involved with the consigners and all that type of stuff, so I did not know. So
that sold for $61,000. What a delight we've got here. These last few tractors have been amazing. This one coming up next, a no reserve tractor, a 1941 John Deere BR. It's had a valve job, the carburetor work's been done, fantastic paint. Neat little tractor. This is from the Richard Zadig collection.
Yeah, and I don't know if cute would be the right word to describe a tractor, but these are cute little tractors.
I almost want to have a recording of you saying the word cute. That just doesn't fit, but yeah, it is.
These things are small enough. I mean, once again, it's another one. Guy with a 2-car garage could tuck it in there. Paint looks almost like brand new on this, and this is another one from the Richard Zadig collection. We had his D come through earlier.
Coming up, S70, a 1949 John Deere AR, new tires, ready for a parade. It sounds like it's had some engine work done. Again, part of the Richard Zadig collection. Another no reserve tractor.
Yeah, and now here's another one. This is one of the tractors on my wish list. I actually had the opportunity to work on a 5380, and part of the deal with me working on it was I told the guy it needed to be put to work and get her warm. Well,
this thing's at $2,000. I think I'll cover you if you want to run out there and start bidding. That looks to be a good buy. Now it's jumped up to $3,000 at $3,500. And is that a pre-filter? What's next to the stack there?
The stack at the back, that's actually air intake stack. And what it was, they wanted it up high enough to get it up out of the dirt and the dust and everything. And then, of course, right in front of it, you got the guy put a chrome stack on it for the exhaust. And these things make a nice little shrill bark when they've got that straight pipe on there. I actually found out that these things, they're a lot of fun. I'm getting to where I like my standard tractors a lot more, but that's not a bad price for a tractor.
No, this thing is going to sell, too. It's at $4,250. Fantastic restoration. Got a kind of a unique cockpit there. Almost got a platform in front of the driver that a lot of these tractors don't have.
Yeah, and right up there on either side, there's 2 doors, and they're just big enough to drop the 2 6-volt batteries, one in each door for the starting system on it. And that was just where they figured out they could put them and kind of keep them out of sight, out of mind.
Well, that's a pretty neat little tractor there from the Richard Zadig collection. Right now at $4,750, has gone home to a new owner. Another beautiful John Deere. You're salivating at this point. 1958 John Deere 720 diesel. Tell me about Pony Start.
Okay, Pony Start, our actual correct John Deere terms, is cranking engine. And if you look right there just above the belt pulley on the screen there, there's that green door at the back of the yellow by the John Deere. There's a little thumb screw you open up. There's a V4 gasoline engine sitting on top of this big motor, the big diesel motor, and then it comes across and it teardrop.
Yeah, you can see the teardrop cover there.
There's actually a clutch and gear and everything that you use to engage the big motor. Well, what it was is the diesels at that point, they did not have the technology yet battery-wise to turn them over efficiently.
So you needed another motor, so to speak, to crank up the diesel.
And that little V4 runs at about right around 5,500 to 6,000 RPM, a little V4, and that thing just screams. Well, what it is that exhaust and the coolant from that in cold weather, you could use that to heat up the block and make it so it would start easier for you in cold weather. I like them because it's a 6-volt electrical system. If this had an electric start, it'd be a 24-volt system. Old Max here ain't the sharpest with electricity, so he doesn't really want to try and figure out 24. He has a hard enough time figuring out 6 and 12.
For you. Well, this is a no reserve featured piece here today. It's at 11.5. Again, beautiful restoration by the folks at the Zadok Collection. Brand new tires, great paint. It's starting to roll out at 11.5. Now bump up to $12,000. Bidders better jump on for this pretty unique and great looking piece.
Yeah, and that cranking engine, of course, that was more popular than the electric starts, but any of these 720, 730 diesels are bringing good money right now, especially if the paint and everything's right and tight with them. I mean, they're a nice tractor.
Well, that one sold down the road for $12,000. Now, this one's kind of neat. I actually saw the top of this when I pulled in and I thought they had an antique truck in here, but number S72 is a Minneapolis Moline. It's an R with a cab on it and a narrow front, kind of a unique looking tractor.
Yeah, and of course, Minneapolis Moline was one of the first companies to come out with a factory cab. And, of course, you make reference to the whole truck thing, but I was watching a guy climb in and out of this, one of the guys from our staff here. Yeah. And, I mean, he's not as big as I am, but I realized it would probably not be the tractor for me because I'd be pretty well tucked in there, probably not able to move like this guy's got his arm out the window now. He looks pretty comfortable in there, but of course, Minneapolis Moline also made what they called the UDLX, which took the whole cab idea a little bit further.
Do they have one of them here today?
No. And I told Dan, that's one of the things on my wish list is to call an auction where you're selling one of those. And he goes, we'll have to see if we can track one down and get it on here.
This has got the glass down by your knees, so you can, of course, see where you're going and see that you're going right down the row. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, we're at $20,000 now in this featured item, S72, this Minneapolis Moline with the reserve now has been met for $20,000. So this tractor is going to have a new owner. Seems to run perfectly, and great restoration. A really unique piece for somebody's collection. And they're starting to roll, so this thing is very close to selling at $20,000, and it is sold. That one is down the road for $20,000. What a cool piece. Well, Max, we've got a lot more to come, so we hope you stay right there. This is the Gone Farmin' Vintage Tractor Auction on RFD-TV. We're now going to run out now and see what Chelsea's got going. She's been running around here all afternoon chasing down some pretty interesting people to talk to. Chelsea, who do you have for us?
Pat, I'm here with Ray Claridge, who I understand has a family history with the Meekums. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're dear friends. I've known Dana for probably 15 years, and Daniel, all of that. You know, he's grown up quite a bit in those few years.
Yeah, what do you think about him starting all this with the Gone Farmin' division?
Well, you know, until a few years ago, I didn't even realize he was really into that, and just sitting and listening to him talk about his passion for farming, and then the tractors. It's kind of fun then to see him turn it into this. I didn't even know he was getting into this until it started happening.
Have you been to most of these events? No,
this is actually the first live event I've gone to. I've bought him over the phone with him when he's having sales. When I couldn't make events, I just buy him on the phone.
Okay, what kind of tractors have you bought from him in the past?
Mostly John Deere's and a couple of Farmalls.
Okay, what is it about those tractors that sparked your interest?
Well, at the beginning and up till now, I've got a business in Hollywood that rents and leases vehicles and movies and television. So I was buying them for rental purposes. So we bought about a half a dozen of them so far that we use on TVs and movies, stuff like that.
Wow, so some of these tractors that we're seeing here today might be in the movies?
Yeah, they will be. We use them all the time, quite a bit on television.
What kind of shows or movies might these tractors actually appear in?
Well, from the television side, from what I can remember, I think Criminal Minds has used them a few times. The CSI shows every once in a while. Anything there's a rural scene in, there's a pretty good chance that there may be a tractor in it. There's actually a couple of, believe it or not, even in Los Angeles, there's a couple of farms not too far from us that they use for movie ranches. And that's pretty good setting for rural tractor scenes and stuff like that.
And you're the guy to come to when they need it, huh?
Well, hopefully. I know I'm the only guy in town that's got tractors.
Is there anything specific that you have your eye on today?
There's a pretty nice Farmall demonstrator out there I really like, but that and an old forklift, believe it or not.
Are those more for the movies, or are those something that you want for yourself?
The demonstrator, I think, is a little bit too nice for the movies, but the forklift, I definitely would like for the TV or movies.
Well, thank you so much, Ray, and I hope you get what you're looking for.
I hope so, too.
Thanks, Chelsea. Well, Max, we're right back just in time for this really unique piece. This is S number 75, a 1950 Massey Harris 44 Orchard. This is one of only a handful even known to exist.
Yeah, Patrick, and this thing here, just a beautiful restoration on this tractor. Very excited to actually have this and actually see it. I get starstruck with some of these tractors and the rarity of them and everything, and it's just one of those things to be able to say that I actually saw one of them in the flesh. This has been kept in a climate-controlled building since it's been restored, since restoration was done. And, I mean, actually, this is probably the most extreme it's gone is the temperatures we've had out here. It's been sitting here the last few days.
That's been the worst that this thing has had, the worst part of its life since it's been restored. Well, and it's interesting how the exhaust, of course, on the Orchard, they don't want to have a stack coming out the hood, so this pumps out down below by the
just
left
comes
side.
out in front of the left-hand tire, and a lot of them, that's how they did it. They directed it down or directed it out the side, and of course with this, a little bit longer pipe and everything made the tractor even quieter yet. So
this one in particular, as you mentioned, just really stuck out outside because of the bright, shiny, beautiful paint on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even a car collector would have to be impressed with the quality of paint on this tractor.
And of course a lot of these guys, they are taking them to car guys and having the paint work done. Because, I mean, there's some of them when they're rare like this, that's the only way to do it justice is to really take it over the top.
Yeah, almost space age looking with all of that sheet metal and all of it just in fantastic shape. This thing's at $23,000 right now. No indication whether or not the reserve has been met. Even the decals on the back of these fenders, which, you know, back when that thing was in use, those couldn't stay nice very long. This thing is just fantastic. Does not have the, what I'll call kind of the peek holes through the hood there for the driver.
No.
The driver has to kind of peek up once in a while and hope he doesn't get poked. Just been informed the bid goes on that vehicle at $23,000. S76 is our next tractor up. This is a 1954 McCormick Farmall Super MTA.
All right, and here we go, another MTA. I mean, they seem to be coming out of the woodwork here at Meekum. So, once again, another nice set of tires. Not the sharpest of paint on this one. I mean, still nice. I mean, still
somebody
nice.
Somebody could have been using this thing not too long ago.
Yeah, and then that's actually what it looks like. It looks like it was probably raking hay or doing some kind of chores here not too long ago.
It's got hydraulics. Would that have been optional on that tractor?
Yeah, that would have been an option for the valve and everything. A lot of them, M&W made a lot of add-on stuff for IH tractors, and that may be the M&W setup for that, to where you had your two-way hydraulics instead of just the one-way hydraulics that most of them came with. So I believe the torque is good in this. The torque amplifier is good, and looks like it's got the cultivator bracket on the front of it yet. Just the tractor is nice and straight.
Great example of a parade tractor right there, I would think, because the thing is, as you said, not show detailed, but good tires and seems to be running good. It's at $4,300 right now. No indication whether or not it's selling yet as it pulls out of the arena. This is number S76.
Do you have a classic tractor or collection you'd like featured on our weekly show? Well, time is running out for Meekum's Gone Farmin' Vintage Classic Tractor Auction, coming up November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa. It all happens at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, where we'll feature hundreds of the best vintage tractors anywhere. Just call or log on to Meekum.com to find out all the entry details. And we'll see you November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa.
We're going to go on now to number S77. This is a 1964 John Deere 1010 Turf. Of course, the Turf's probably indicated it's got the dual rear wheels on the back for Turf.
Yeah, and everything is set down lower. This would have been used for like a golf course or a municipality for mowing the parks. Probably would have had like a gang-type reel mower on the back of it. Of course, got the umbrella on there that kind of matches the industrial yellow paint on this tractor. Looks like we're going at a $5,000 bid right now. And it's got the dual factory tires, 3-point wide PTO. Well,
this thing has been restored, it says, 15 years ago, and it is in remarkable condition. And this tractor is formerly owned by the county, an Iowa County crew. So this was used for a municipality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been the county highway department or whatever was using this tractor for mowing the roadside ditches or the embankments. I would imagine those duals and that low-to-the-ground stance would probably been pretty nice on some of them overpass ramps and that type of stuff. So
we're at $6,500 on this tractor, and it does not look like it's going to sell. Looks like they want to go a little bit higher on that one. Really, really neat little tractor. Coming up next, X78 is a Case 1832 cross motor, unrestored. Looks like a barn find, and this thing is a really unique piece.
Yeah, and Case was wanting to put the full engine power to the clutch and the belt pulley for doing your belt work, because of course a lot of your machines, your threshers, feed grinders and all that were run with flat belts years ago, and this is a prime example, actually a nice original example of what these tractors look like in the current state that you find them. This one's actually probably a little nicer than some of them you find. I've seen some of these sitting in boneyards where there's nothing left but the shell.
It's all rusted out. This thing is actually going through on its own power too, so it is it's running good, and a neat piece just to either restore or to leave just like this. Like you said, it's got an awful lot of character just like it sits.
Mm-hmm. And of course you look at that Case 1832, 18 drawbar horsepower, 32 engine horsepower on the belt horsepower.
And that one is going down the road at 3,200. That is sold. Our next lot's number S79, a 1948 Farmall C. This is an all-original one. It claims to be the second owner. This is the first of the Farmall C built.
Yep. Yeah, this would be, I believe, it would technically be serial number 1, although IH started at some different numbers, so 515 might have been the last experimental, and 516 was the first production.
Yeah.
And you look at it, 1948, like I said, I've got a 49 at home with a 2-row cultivator on it. And it
you
looks
still
like,
use.
Yeah, and this one looks like it's got some other attachment that could have been on it or whatever, but all the casting numbers match, and it's a Q code. And what that means, I believe, is some of the casting part number castings, the big castings, have a Q designation on them, cast into them, which means that it was early production. It may have been some of the experimental parts that were okayed for quality to be on this tractor in production. So.
Well, that thing is at $2,200 right now as it rolls out of the arena. No indication whether or not it's selling. And it does not look like it will, but we'll get an indication from the auctioneer here in just a second as he wraps up bidding on S79, which is that 48. And the bid goes on at $2,000. Another great-looking John Deere. This is an early one in 1937, John Deere AOS. Really got some unique sheet metal on this tractor, Max.
Yeah, and of course this would be in 1937. This is the only year this tractor was produced, was in 1937. It was Deere's real first venture into the orchard tractors, and they wanted something that was a little more streamlined, so they made that pointed nose on there to kind of sweep everything back. And the fenders, it doesn't have the full citrus fenders on it or the extensions.
Was that an option, or was that just in this John Deere they didn't do it?
There were options for them. I want to say total production on these was only somewhere around 400.
My goodness.
420. And this is all the original fenders on here, which is very rare, very hard to find, because those fenders took a beating. And to find them where they're straight or where they could be straightened and made to look correct is just a testament to itself. And
another beautiful restoration, brand new tires on this thing. It's got the spoke front wheels, which is cool, and we're at $11,000 as it starts to roll. Doesn't have quite the same protection for the driver as some of the orchard tractors.
No, and they weren't. I don't think they were quite worried about that yet. They kind of hadn't figured out at that point that the driver was just as important as the tractor. So, but you do notice the way that seat sits down. You're tucked down quite a bit lower.
And that one sold for $11,000, that 37 Orchard. Beautiful tractor. We're going on now to number S82. which is a 1960 John Deere 430 Standard.
Yeah, and this one here, it looks like brand new paint on it. Tires got the guy actually popped for the ribbed tires in the front with the antique design with the ridges. Has spin-out rims on it. All the gauges have been and power steering on it, which is unusual. Front weights, 3-point with the third link.
Heavily optioned tractor.
Everything on there, and the price, of course, shows that is a desirable tractor, and it is done right.
And the reserve has just been met at $13,000, and now we're at $13,500. So that tractor is going to have a new owner in just a little bit. Back to, I guess, $13,000. They're trying to get $13,500. Beautiful restoration.
And of course, you watch these ring gals and guys out there. They are out there. They're working just as hard as the auctioneers are, getting the people to come on, make that one
Get
more
them excited.
bid. One more is going to buy it. And, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And that one's going to sell at $13,000.
$13,000 for number S82, which moves us to S83. 1943. This is a 2N.
Yeah, and of course, original rear tires, all original condition, rebuilt carburetor, but this was military special use, rebuilt lift pump, very low hours, military numbers, hand crank, no starter, magneto, oil gauge only.
So this baby's kind of stripped down, and I noticed it doesn't have the light kit either on this tractor.
No, and of course, in 43, lights on the Fords that was a regular option.
And the military didn't fling for a lot of options, did they?
No, so evidently because I'm not even seeing the spot where the lights would have bolted to the side of the hood or anything. And of course, the 2N, that was the smallest of the N series Fords. To find one, in that good a condition, it looks like original tires.
It's
all
unmolested. That thing is just like it was. It says it's obviously original paint.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the military vehicles too are typically maintained pretty well. So even though it's not heavily optioned, it probably mechanically is in fantastic condition.
Well, I think a lot of times in the military, I think a lot of times guys were sent just to go change the oil in it. They might have done it the day before, but it was, here, go change the oil in it.
Do it again.
Yeah.
This S83 is at $3,500. Reserve has been met. This little tractor is going to have a new owner. It got a lot of character. That's one of those I'd think a guy just leave just like it is and have some fun with it.
Yeah, the good original tractors need to be left as good originals in my mind. So
this is a delight little vehicle. Number S84 is Oliver HD42. This has got a plow, runs like a top. Got the bright red fenders and the tracks. What a neat! And look at him. Got the hydraulic, the blade going up and down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you look at that and you kind of sit there and go, man, wouldn't that be in the way trying to see and operate that tractor? And yes, it was, but it sure beat a shovel or anything else at the time. So you kind of learn to live with looking around whatever's in front of you to be able to operate it. So
we don't have a year on this. Based on the front grille, do you have an idea what vintage this might be?
I would say probably mid-40s. It would be about where it's at, especially with the way the hydraulics and everything are plumbed. It was one of those, it was an afterthought to have that type of stuff on there. That little thing weighs 3,100 pounds plus the dozer, 14-inch track pads. So
of course now the farmers all have skid loaders, but this is what they had before that. And this one is selling. It's a no reserve auction, currently priced at $4,000.
And like I said, just a beautiful restoration. You look at those crawlers, they got the daylights behind them. The blade is not all beat up and hasn't been welded and cobbled back together. It's nice. And it's amazing, these little crawlers, it's 21 horsepower, but you would be surprised the amount of power that 21 horses, when you strap them to tracks like that, how much push and
that thing
power
could move.
they've
It
got.
could probably handle a bigger blade, actually, with all that power. So that one's got a new owner at $4,000, S84, that neat Oliver with the plow on it. Got another Oliver coming up, number S85. This is an HD42. Again, another 21 horsepower. Very, very similar looking tractor.
Well, it's pretty much the same tractor, just without the plow on it, without the dozer blade on it. Looks like the track pads might be a little bit different style, but still just
about the same vintage, it looks like. So that blade was removable. You could use that tractor for other uses.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, at this juncture, when the crawlers were starting to come out, there were certain people in peat ground or mucky ground. They needed the crawlers to be able to go across that and work the land. So there were quite a few crawlers that were starting to be used in agricultural work, and they were just starting to really catch on the industrial side for the bulldozer work and stuff like that. So
you noticed you couldn't see the other one because of the blade, but this one's got that hand crank out front of this tractor. It's $3,500. Once again, this one's selling at no reserve. Right now, just about $500 less, sans the blade, than the tractor right before this. Another great restoration. Tractor seems to run good.
Yeah,
one of your tractor club guys is probably having a lot of fun driving that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. And those little crawlers, I've always wanted to drive one of them. I did finally get the opportunity to run one at Link last fall, a little John Deere 40 crawler. And I'll tell you what, it's just like, what can I push over? What can I run into next?
Give me something. That's sold for $3,500. Now our next item is number S86, a 1945 John Deere AO. It's got the covered rear wheels, another nice restoration. Another one of those restorations that's got the nice front tires on it.
Yeah, and this has got all the right equipment on it. Got the headlights mounted up there.
Optional,
with the cast
I
bracket.
assume.
Yep, that was an option. It also has electric start on an unstyled tractor, which was built during the, I want to say it was 48 was when they finally styled the ARs and the AOs. So this was getting there. I mean, really kind of a wartime tractor to have all the options like that, the lights, the electric start, and all that stuff on there. It's just a neat tractor to own, and the electric start on there. Two-cylinder club documentation goes with it, which those of you out there that don't understand that, if you got the serial number plate, you can actually, if you're a member of the two-cylinder club, you can send your serial number in, and they send you a notarized piece of paper that they did the serial number research on it, and if you're lucky enough, they can give you a shipping destination and everything on it.
And this has got it.
Yeah, this has got it.
The reserve is off, and it's sold for $12,500. Very valuable, and you can see as it pulls out how nicely restored those fenders are. Because again, that had to be getting beat up when that thing was in normal use. They had to be all dinged up. Our next one up, S87, is a 1957 John Deere 720 diesel. Looks like unrestored, I would say. Pretty original condition. Again, probably came out of the field yesterday.
Yeah, it's still in its work clothes is what I call it. It's an older restoration, but it's in its work clothes. She's seen some rain and snow and some work and everything done. So this is actually one of them that I was kind of interested in getting out there and bidding on. So be interesting to see.
Well, if the mic goes silent, and I'm talking by myself, you folks who know what happened is Max went out there to buy another toy. I hope you got lots of land, because you've got quite the collection.
Yeah, it would be, I think, number 26. So
my goodness.
But it's already going up into that area, which I figured it was going to go. I figured I'd be able to snipe that one a little bit on the lower end. But
well, I think one of the things that they've announced about this tractor, Max, that's bringing up the price is it's got a complete recent major overhaul, including a new crankshaft. So that certainly builds up the value of this thing. Sold for $5,500.
And that's about where I figured it was going to go, but I wanted to be about half of that, or about $1,000 less than that. So
we've got another one being towed in, another one of these tractors, a Cletrac. It's an Ag 6. This is a 34 horsepower. This thing's got a lot more horsepower.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for that to come in, why don't we go back out and talk to Chelsea, who's tracked down another interesting individual who's been with us here the last couple of days. Chelsea, it's all yours.
I'm here with Tom Gaiman, who I understand has quite a history with Mecum. How did you become acquainted with them?
Well, when I first started out, I was a car collector. And knowing Dana Mecum and what a job he did selling collector cars and muscle cars, once I retired, I decided it was time I needed something to do, so I decided I was going to restore old tractors. And after 12 years of chasing tractors all over the United States and bringing them back home to Wisconsin and spending my summers restoring them, when it was time to quit, I knew who I was going to go to help me get rid of my tractors, and that was definitely the Mecum Auction Company.
Excellent. So when did you first sell tractors with Mecum?
I signed my collection about 3 years ago when Dan had his original first tractor auction right here on this particular site here in Walworth.
So you are like the first official Mecum Vintage Tractor Auction customer.
I guess I am. I was the first one to consign with Dan, and actually it was just an awesome experience. They did a wonderful job. They marketed it properly. They brought people in from all over the United States, and actually my 27 tractors went to 7 different states during the collection.
That is quite impressive. Is there anything here today that you got your eye on? Are you still doing collecting?
Well, I'm actually not buying too many tractors right now, but I see a couple of my old ones that I sold in my auction, and there's one here I can already see standing right here that maybe I wouldn't mind having back.
So do you have any specific tractor memories that might be special to you?
Well, actually, during my tractor restoration project over 12 years, I was into it about 3 years, and my wife was from Oklahoma, and her dad was a farmer in Oklahoma. And we were out there visiting, and I spotted this old Ford in the bushes, and I decided that, you know what, that was my father-in-law's. I have to give it a whirl. But when I asked him what he wanted and then hadn't ran in years, obviously it was way, way too much. And my wife says, you have to buy it anyway. So I bought it, paid too much to restore it, but had a great time doing it, and it was just an awesome experience. And once it was completed, he actually was in awe, and we lost him about a year after I completed the restoration.
I'm sorry to hear that, but that does sound like a nice memory to keep.
It was great. It was an awesome memory.
Thanks, Chelsea. We look forward to checking back in with you very soon. And boy, now we've got this neat little cleat track coming in. This is an AG6, 34 horsepower. Quite a few more ponies than the last track tractors that came in.
Well, and if you also look at it, with the ponies came a lot more weight. This weighs over twice what those 2 previous Oliver crawlers, which of course the Cleatrack name is what got Oliver into the business. Cleatrack was their own, it was Cleveland Tractor Company, and they just shortened it up.
Fit it on the hood, so they had to shorten it down to Cleatrack.
To Cleatrack, and they were really pioneers in the small crawler business. And I mean, of course, this is one of the bigger crawlers. So
now this one would move some serious dirt, and it's got a very unique grill pattern. Once the camera gets around there, you can see there that it's got a unique grill.
Yeah, and I think this is probably only the second or third Cleatrack we've seen. The first AG6 I've ever seen sell here at Mecum. So.
And this is a no reserve auction, and kind of going to that same price point that the other ones did, about $3,000. And we're going to start rolling it out here in a second as the bidding wraps up on number S88. Actually, it hadn't quite got to $3,000 yet. They're at $2,500. Probably had again blade attachments and all kinds of things you can do with this tractor.
Yeah.
Pretty versatile little farm tractor.
Yeah, it looks like this one was probably primarily used for the agricultural work, for plowing or disking, the tillage work. So.
And there she starts rolling. She's at $2,600, and got a nice, clean, buttoned-up look. The motor's all covered up. Sold for $2,600. So here we go with a really neat piece. This is a 1966 International 1206. Another 1206 in fantastic condition. We saw one earlier from the white collection that was fantastic. Completely restored, entirely new engine, brand new rubber. Boy, this one is standing tall.
Yeah, just got the single PTO, 1,000 RPM, which at this point they were starting in with 1,000 RPM PTOs, and that made it kind of helped out because there was a lot of equipment that needed to be spun a lot faster to handle these higher horsepower tractors that were coming out. I mean, when this came out, I want to say a 1206 is somewhere right around the 120 to 130 horsepower range. With a little bit of playing, you can get a lot more out of them. A lot of times, though, the rear ends would not hold up to the higher horsepower. So all the restoration paperwork is included, so you're going to get documentation of everything that was done to that tractor. So.
Probably a pair of the nicest 1206s you could ever find together. This one's all new wiring, all new electrical, is going to have a new owner today. Max just passed by 30,000, now at 32.5. The reserve has been met, and there's going to be a very, very happy owner here in just a few moments of this beautiful 66.
And one other thing you point out, this actually has the Farmal designation on the side of it. It's a row crop. Now, Now, if you see a 1206, it says McCormick on the side of it, or International Harvester, it's a Wheatland or a Standard.
Wow, you are just an encyclopedia of amazing information. This thing is up to $38,000, even bringing a little bit more than the earlier one. Just a beautiful, beautiful tractor. $39,000, might reach 40. They're still trying as it rolls out of the arena. Oh wow, it flew past 40. Now it's they're trying to get 41. A couple people in a battle for this. Oh, it's at 39.5. They'll be hovering around that 40.
They're starting to slow it down. Looks like they're taking half bids now, so it's creeping, but they're squeezing every penny they can out of it.
Have you seen one of these bring 40,000 before?
No. Actually, I don't think I have. I've seen them in the high 3s and that, or high 30s, but.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful piece. Well, folks, we're on the about midway point of today's activity. We're at the 4th annual Meekham's Vintage Tractor Auction. Patrick Combs and Max Wilson, proud to be with you here the last few days. We're going to take a quick break. Much more to come, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on RFD-TV.
Do you have a classic tractor or collection you'd like featured on our weekly show? Well, time is running out for Meekham's Gone Farmin' Vintage Classic Tractor Auction, coming up November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa. It all happens at the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds, where we'll feature hundreds of the best vintage tractors anywhere. Just call or log on to Meekham.com to find out all the entry details. And we'll see you November 1st and 2nd in Davenport, Iowa.
Whether you're a collector or just an enthusiast, Meekham has a vehicle for you. You can go to Meekham.com to see not only the antique tractor shows coming up, but also the classic automobiles as well. So be sure to tune in every Tuesday at 5:30 right here on RFD-TV for Meekham's Gone Farmin' Antique Tractor Show. Max Wilson, Pat Combs, we'll see you next week.